What up, everybody? It's your man Sam Ant, CEO of Viral Hip Hop News, and we are live this morning, this beautiful Wednesday morning, man, in the building with my brother Mike Ross. Mike on the mic is in the building with me, man. We chopping it up this beautiful morning. Before we get started with the content, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this video. Let's get some people in the building right now. And you already know how we do. Drop your area codes, man. Let me know where you're listening from. Let me know where you're tuning in, man, so we can definitely engage and have a good time. But yeah, man, I got my brother Mike Ross here on the show. Had him on a couple weeks ago. We've been doing the goddamn thing, man. How you feeling, brother?
Hey man, I'm feeling wonderful. I'm feeling blessed. Everything's great.
You looking swole, man. You just got out the gym and shit?
Hey man, I get it in every morning, baby. Every morning.
Word up, man. How's life treating you, man? And it's been hot as hell in Jersey, man. How's everything treating you up top?
Oh man, I've been waiting for this warm weather. It's a blessing every day to have another day, to wake up and enjoy the weather.
Facts on that. Facts on that. So for the people who don't know, you are a comedian, been doing the comedy thing for a long time now, man. Definitely making a force out here in New Jersey. And we love to bring you on. I know I love to bring you on. We love to bring you on the podcast to talk about certain comic issues that we see going on. And throughout the last couple of months, we've been seeing a lot of comic issues going on, surprisingly enough. We've seen what happened with T.I. a little while ago. Then we seen Will Smith, Chris Rock debacle. Then we see what happened with Dave Chappelle. And it's just the list goes on. And just recently, we see two comic heavyweights, Mo'Nique and D.L, get into a little bit of a confrontation. Now, just to give a backstory to the people why they come in, and like I said, drop the area code. You already know how to do it. Mo'Nique and D.L were supposed to headline a show, I believe, out in Detroit. Both of them have a paperwork stating that they were both the headline. Both of them have the timesheet to where they were supposed to be headlining. It seems like a whole big ass mess. And there's people playing both sides of the equation. The line is split down the sand. You got people that are team Mo'Nique, people that are team DL. I know personally I like Mo'Nique more, but as a journalist, we want to make sure that we keep things down the middle and keep things, you know what I mean, as fair as possible and as genuine as possible. So before I play the clip, because DL dropped a clip, I think last night, kind of giving his whole synopsis on what he thought happened. What did you think when you initially saw the drama between DL and Mo'Nique?
My initial reaction was actually pain. I was hurt. I was hurt for both of them. I was hurt for the culture. I was hurt for the profession. For the mere fact, I mean, coming from our culture, we know how we were raised. We've seen at family functions, Thanksgiving or cookouts, where we had our uncles or aunties get into a fight. That's what it reminded me of. When your aunties and uncles put out too much personal business, and your auntie might say, you got outside kids, or your uncle might say that ain't really his baby, and it's some things that we ain't supposed to hear. That's just supposed to stay in house. So that's how I initially felt. It was just terrible to see two legends that I admire and look up to and respect actually, air out our dirty laundry as a culture and as professionals out to the media like that.
Yeah, now let me ask you this, because you've been on stage with various comedians and things like that before. I don't know if you've ever dealt with an issue where a fellow comedian started going in on you about a contract dispute live on stage. And Mo'Nique is Mo'Nique. She's a fucking icon. She goes out there and she makes people laugh, even though she's still talking real shit. And it was funny, but it was serious at the same time. And I was talking to various people in various circles on how they would react to that situation if they were in DL's shoes. Would they have attacked that situation head on? Would they still have went on stage? If that would have happened to you, and let's say somebody would have went on you live on stage the way that she did, what would be your reaction?
First, let me say this. I've opened for D.L. Hughley, met him several times, class act, a genuine, just gentleman, a good-hearted person, individual. Like, forget the comedy. We're human beings when the lights go out. And to be in this man's presence, to see how he treat his staff, the staff at the comedy place, the promoters, he's always been nothing but a stand-up guy. And I appreciate, for me coming up, him giving me the opportunity and just being a very solid human being, a solid person.
Right.
To answer the question is, I think he handled it. I think he handled it very professionally, that he still went on and was able to complete the show. I think it would have been difficult for me to go in after she set the tone, because you have to realize at a comedy show, people are coming to laugh and they're coming to be enlightened and they want to engage with you, but not with the drama, not with you know, outside rhetoric. And that's not to blame Mo'Nique.
Right.
That's to say, for me, it would be difficult to come into that energy. They said he did it and carried on with the show. For me, I'm always gonna the most difficult road for us to take, especially as African Americans, sometimes is the high road. So I definitely, as a professional, would have took the high road and not, you know, once two people were going at it at a situation that's negative, the worst thing you could do is pile onto it and create more hostility and more anger, because the crowd doesn't deserve that. The crowd is there to laugh. They're not there to hear our personal issues.
Right. Now, seeing how Mo'Nique reacted and seeing from the outside perspective, kind of looking at this whole thing as an overall, it looked like the promoter definitely did some shady shit and lied to both Mo'Nique and DL. But when Mo'Nique got the initial call that she was supposed to be headline and then wasn't headline, and she gave that reaction, and we've seen what Mo'Nique has gone throughout time in her career, and then she brought up the fact that Black women are disrespected in this game. I want to know what your thoughts were on that. Does she have a valid point in that, or is it a situation? I don't know if you know Mo'Nique personally, but is it a situation where this woman is in an isolated situation? This has nothing to do with color, but just has something to do with the individual.
I've never met Mo'Nique personally. I've been in the same arena she has been in. I'm close to her, and I can say she has authentic energy, real energy. She don't even have to speak for you to pick up on that. She's a genuine sister, and she says what she means, and she means what she says. So I have to give credit and honest to her for you could just pick up her spirit and her true realness being in her presence without her even speaking. However, in that case, I feel like the people outside of comedy don't realize, the audience don't realize, but comedians know that the promoters are always on some slick shit, on some smooth shit. They always have something up their sleeve in regards to getting money. That's what promoters do. So that's nothing new to comedians or entertainers. That's new to the outside world who never heard that. So it's always something that can be backdoor. When situations happen with me, I've had promoters come up and say, hey, could you throw this person on the show? Hey, could you let this person get this many times? Or try to dictate it. We know that goes on behind the scenes. It's still a level of professionalism we have to exude as comedians to say, hey, do I want to mess up the money, or do I want to make this an issue? So it becomes a choice of yours. What kind of discernment do you have to say what's more important to me, going up here making an issue, or being professional, taking this money and then being able to do another show with that promoter? Because one thing you want to do as a comedian is stay in good graces with the promoters, to always have other shows to follow that.
Hold on. Right. So, like I said, it seemed like it was the promoter. The promoter had a lot to do with that situation.
Absolutely.
He had his button on that shit. He or she, whoever the promoter was, knew what they.
But that's what promoters do. That's what they do.
So we know that, right? You've been on the comic stage. You know that. I've never been on there, but from the outside looking at all the stuff, I saw that, and a lot of other real people saw that. But we still seen the vitriol, the disdain, the malice toward these two comic legends. It seemed like something more fueled this beef that we see continually going on. Like I said, DL just did a video. Maybe this will be the last one. I don't know. He verbally talked about it on his show, and we're going to play it in a minute. But do you feel as though it was something more to that story than just a miscommunication? Because I feel like if they knew it was the promoter's responsibility and he fucked up, then this should have been something, like you said in the beginning, should have been handled behind the scenes, should have been handled privately. But the shit went public and it got nasty. So do you think it was something more to the story of DL and Mo'Nique than what we saw play out with the whole contract situation?
I mean, absolutely. It was a slight history there between the two when Mo'Nique was going through her situations, and I think DL made a comment or two. And this is not to take sides. I'm just the type of individual to say, hey, if me and you have an issue as woman to man or man to man, I would like to, conduct it privately where it doesn't get out to the world, where everybody is able to, understand that we have that issue, because we still have to have a certain level of respect for the culture and for the profession. But I'm sure this was a platform for Mo'Nique to express herself. And I understand, because I've been in that position before, when you've been slighted by so many people. And I think Mo'Nique is still carrying that vitriol of being slighted by Lee Daniels and the other Oprah and everybody else who she had an issue with, and sometimes that carries over into other arenas. And she might have felt that she was being slighted and took it out on DL when it wasn't an actual slight. So sometimes when you already feel like, you know, you have certain issues that keeps piling on top of you, you might say, hey, this is the last thing. However, the last thing really wasn't a thing. You made it a thing because you're feeling internally that people were against you, or you have this victim mentality. It's like the next thing that happened, I'm going off. And the thing that I felt terrible for is that she addressed his family. Like, his family has nothing to do with how you feel about him.
Mm-hmm.
She addressed his kids and his wife. That to me was totally out of line. And I'm not saying, you know, I'm taking his side. I'm just saying some things we shouldn't, you know, do. You know, family is off limits. And, you know, if you have a problem with the man, you should have a problem with just you and him, not his sexuality or addressing his sexuality, because she's like, you know, he's gay or bisexual. When does gay or being bisexual become making you a bad person, or is a bad thing? Like, that might be a choice of lifestyle, but gay and being bisexual is not that means you're a bad person. So I just hate that people always say, oh, if you don't like a person, just say they're gay and that makes them wrong. Like, I know several gay people that are still great human beings. That don't mean, you know, I'm a womanizer. I'm a hoe. That don't mean I'm not a good man.
Facts on that. You'd help me out, Mike, because we get on these shows and my cousin and I, we do our podcasts, and I do my individual thing. He does his, and we give our perspective. And we talk about DL often, right? And I've never met the man, never had the opportunity to come face to face with the brother. I just have an opinion based off of what I see, what he distributes on his social media platforms, and what I see. And sometimes I have an issue with DL because it just seems like, and it's more political than anything, and I don't get into politics, but it seems like he just tries to steer Black folk a certain way when it comes to Democrats and voting and things like that. And that's mainly my main issue. But what is one of the biggest misconceptions, the brief time that you've spent with DL, that people kind of get mixed up? Like, what's something that's genuine about him that you could share with the people right now that may not be seen right away on camera?
Well, I feel like DL is always either extreme to the left or extreme to the right. He's never down the middle. And he's strong on what he believes in. For me personally, I have friends that are extreme left and extreme to the right, but I'm down the middle. So I'm like, I know you for who you are. I'm not gonna, just because you might believe in the right wing or the left wing, that has nothing to do with both of us sitting down eating chicken. So if I'm dealing with you just from a man-to-man human standpoint with integrity, I'm not worried about your political stance. I'm not worried about what you believe in, who you voted for. This is just me to you, brother to brother. So as brother to brother, he always came across to me genuine. I'm not looking for somebody's views or what they said.
Right.
I'm just reacting on how you treated me as a man. And when I meet different comedians and I'm around different celebrities, it's about the integrity you show me with just you and I, man to man or woman to woman. It has nothing to do with your beliefs. Some people could be Muslim, some people can be Christian. That don't mean we can't meet in the middle for what we're doing as far as human beings and our integrity for the culture. Once we leave, you can still leave and believe what you want to believe in. So I don't allow that to affect my judgment for how I feel about the person's character or their internal spirit.
Facts. I appreciate that. And I feel the same exact way. Like, and sometimes I know our perspectives and our opinions, it may cause certain people not to come on our show, and that's okay. If we ever met in person, it'd be a different ball game because it'd be a level of respect there, because a lot of people that we talk about, so to speak, we don't get to know on a personal level. And I know that there's people that we met on the personal level that don't have a real good reputation on the internet, but we don't use that reputation on the internet as a catalyst for how we treat them when we meet them in person. So I 1,000% agree with that.
And just think about it. It's like, we didn't all feel Trump. We all didn't care about what Trump said, but we sure did take that goddamn money.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right. That's it. Hey, well, how you feel and what you do ain't got nothing to do with me spending this money. I'm still goddamn take it.
Facts. Now let me ask you this, because a lot of people were asking and debating whether or not Monique should headline or DL should headline, who's better, who's worse. And I'm not going to get in that debate, and I'm not going to make you go ahead and answer that question being in the profession you're in. But what I will ask is this, because we have a divide when it comes to women comics and male comics to where it seems like the pecking order always seems like the male is on top and the woman's just slightly below, whether or not her talent level, if the talent level equates where she's at, you know what I'm saying? Like, even though she may be funnier, and I'm not putting Mo'Nique or D.L funny, I'm just saying the women comic may be funnier than a male comic, but the male comic is headlining for whatever reason. Is there a divide between male and female? Do female comedians, from what you've seen in the game, get a fair shake as compared to their counterpart, their male counterparts?
That's a difficult question. I think early on that was that used to be very prevalent, but when you have the big names like you have now with Tiffany Haddish, the Lunells, the Tiffany Camachos, Ada Rodriguez's, that's changing now. These women are coming. The first thing I was taught, or the thing that really made me really sit down and understand the game, was a promoter by the name of Derek at the Stress Factory. He said the name of this game is putting asses in the seats. So it's not necessarily who's the funniest that's going to close. It's not necessarily who's the most talented. It's who puts the most asses in the seats, who has the biggest fan base, who has the biggest following, who sells the most tickets. So,
right.
I've been around several comedians that I felt might have been better than one than the other, but it's not always about who's the funniest. It's about who has the most cachet. I can remember early on when I first started, I was doing a show and I was supposed to headline. I actually allowed Smokey Suarez to headline my show because I felt at that time I was not as strong as Smokey. I've seen Smokey come there and kill it, and he had other big names in front of him, and he was the funniest one on the stage. And I don't even want to name the names that went behind him, but I was like, he was the best comedian that night. However, he wasn't the headliner, and everybody in the comedy game understands that. There's guys that are absolutely hilarious that are not the headliners because for whatever reason, they don't have the selling factor or the star factor or the cachet to sell the damn tickets. And that's what it's about. Putting asses in the seats. It's not about anything other than that.
I want to put a pin in that headliner comment because I want to talk about that. But before we do, I want to play the video and audio of what DL had to say to wrap this whole conversation around. I'm going to play that clip right now. We'll watch it live together. I don't know if you saw it, but I didn't see it yet. And then I'll get your thoughts on it.
Was Khalid talk, I work very hard to control the environment I work in community. I only work where I want to work and who I want to work for. I want to work with. I don't work because that is a very precious place to me. I've been offered a gig, a couple of gigs, 3 or 4 gigs to work with Monique in LA, in Brooklyn, in Houston, and I turned them down because I didn't think it would work. So after talking to a lot of people, and one of the very people in this room about how things are different, 2 of the very people in this room, as a matter of fact, and how things are different, and look at how things are coming around, I decided it would be wrong for me not to give somebody a chance based on things that they'd never done to me. That would have been wrong to me. And when she talks, and she goes on her diatribe, and she talks about me having my feet under her table, that was at her invitation. I was doing a gig in Greenbelt, Maryland. She lived in Baltimore. She was having a fight party. It was I think Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson. And sure enough, I came to her table at her invitation. It was a wonderful time. As a matter of fact, it was based on that interaction, along with talking to people, I decided that I would do these gigs. I decided I would do it. And now I know what Tyler Perry knows. I know what Lee Daniels knows. I know what Oprah knows. I know what Steve Harvey knows. I know what Charlamagne the God knows. I know what Netflix knows. Saying yes to Monique is an occupational hazard. Now, we're playing a gig in Detroit this weekend. I know I'm going on at 9:45. I leave the hotel. I get there around 9. Monique had just gotten there. She's supposed to be there at 8:40. She had just gotten there, gone at 8:40. She got there at 8:38. What Monique was trying to do was to slow walk the show. She didn't end up getting on for 30 minutes. The oldest trick in the world is, if I want to change the order and I don't have merit, I'll try to make people wait so long that everybody gets nervous and go, please just go on so we can avoid a conflict. That didn't happen. Monique got on stage. Monique actually felt like she had merit. She would have done 1 of 3 things. Either she would have took it up with the promoter, and she did, and the promoter said, we're going on, and whether you go on or not, that's a different thing. You would have not done it, but she knew she had to get on stage, or she would have been in breach of contract, or she would have come to talk to me. She didn't ever, and I emphatically emphasize this. She never once talked to me. I haven't seen Monique in years. I didn't see her at the venue before, after, or during. I haven't spoken or seen Monique. So if you really thought that you had a legitimate contract dispute, you would have come to me and said, hey, I have this contract and you had this contract. Notice not one thing on that contract, not one person she has on that contract, not one thing happened. Do you know why? Because it wasn't legitimate. And she goes on stage and she proceeds to eviscerate me. Not just me, but Steve Harvey, the sexual, my wife, my dog later on in subsequent conversation. Let me ask you something. What did any of that have to do with an alleged contract dispute? What did Steve Harvey have to do with your contract? What did I have to do with your contract? What did my dog have to do with your contract? What does my wife have to do with your contract? You wrote your contract, you and your daddy. You proceeded to say things that were so patently insulting that it was galling. It was galling. You asked in subsequent conversations why I have a dog, a support dog. What kind of person has a support dog? I have that dog because my father died. My children and family decided they would get a dog from where he was from, and I named the dog after my father. I don't have a dog to keep people away from me. I have a dog, so I have my father with me all the time. That is an act of love, which you know very little about. You proceeded to assault my sexuality. You have the temerity to assault someone's sexuality, a man's sexuality, given who you lay next to. None of that had anything to do with alleged contract dispute. You could have taken that up with a lawyer. You would have gotten out. You could have not gone on stage, but you knew you didn't have a valid contract. And you do what you always have done. You tried to weaponize Black femininity. You tried to turn that audience against me. You tried to burn everything down, like you do all the time. Who calls Netflix and thinks I can get $10 million because I did the Queens of Comedy? Who thinks you can get on stage and still live off that? I was a king of comedy. You never hear me talking about it because in this business, like any other, it isn't what you have done, it's what you do. That show was one I signed on to do. I made the quintessential mistake, the horrible mistake that like Tyler Perry, like Lee Daniels, like Oprah, like all these people of saying yes to you. And it is an occupational hazard. It is my fault. I have learned my lesson. You didn't just, and the thing that bothers me the most isn't the things that you said, because I know who I am and I know what I do. And I have a pristine reputation. Everybody who knows me know what I'm about. It's this whole, my dear, my babies, I love you for real, which is so transparently false. It is ridiculous. But the thing that was really the most annoying, the thing that was really the most bothersome is after a terrible couple of weeks where people were being slain in Buffalo, where people were being slain, kids are getting slain in school, and people had come to a comedy show to get away from all of their problems, you besieged them with yours. The one contract that isn't in dispute is the one that the audience had with us to entertain them. But every single time, more and more, you spend half of your time talking about your grievances and what you didn't get and who did this to you. Listen, when you burn things up and you sit back to watch the results of them, she's literally set that stage on fire, said the most incendiary things ever, and I had to go on stage. She has the temerity to call me a coward. A coward would have left. A coward would have said, I can't go. You didn't even want to go on when you had a contract that you knew that not to be true. You made up this whole narrative that you knew not to be true, and you played that out in front of the audience. And then I had to go on behind you. And you know what you did? You sat back and you tried to watch your damage. You set the stage on fire and you watched what you've done. You know who does that? Arsonists do that. Arsonists set shit on fire and try to see the damage it drops. But I blame myself because I know now what I didn't before. Saying yes to you is an occupational hazard, one I will not repeat. I don't blame you. I wish you well. But when you do the things you do, when everything's about you, when you're vitriolic, when you have all these fights with all of these entities, it is you. Precious was not a movie. Precious was an autobiography. That is who you are, literally. You mad at the contract you and daddy wrote, your daddy? And I don't know why you call a man daddy and you pay for him. That's a son. Let's be clear. I am not angry with you. I'm angry with me. I did what I knew not to be true. But I'm going to tell you something. When you burn and you destroy and you wreck, you are not a queen of comedy. You're a queen of ashes. Now, while I'm going to go back to work and you get back to your kingdom of smoke. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the jazz report coming.
Woo, shit. All right, brother. We got, oh, first of all, before you get to, I want to get your reaction. We got 164 people in the building. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell. I got my brother Mike on the mic, Mike Ross, New Jersey comedian in the building right now. Go show that brother some love, man. While we got the people in the building, let them know where they can find you. And then give me your reaction on what you thought of that, man.
I'm at Mike Ross Comedy on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, YouTube under Mike on the Mic. So you should be able to find me at those platforms. The thing that stood out to me the most, what he said was, she could have came and spoke to him, because as comedians, there's a fraternity and there's a sorority, there's a professionalism that we have, because when you're on alignment with a show, we all have to work together. So it's not just your show, it has to go cohesive. So we all want to be able to communicate backstage with each other to say, hey, this is how it's going to work out. It's rare that we go to a show and don't speak to the other comedians. We're all in the same green room or in the same vicinity. Now, just like we have a fraternity and sorority, as comedians, promoters have a group of promoters that have their own fraternity, and they speak to each other. They tell each other, I got this one at this price, and I can get this one at that price. I paid this one this, and you paid this one that. So you have to realize, you have to show professionalism and solidarity for what we do to stick together, because once the promoters can split you and divide you, they already know that they won. And I think that's actually what happened in that case. They were able to divide both of them by telling Monique one thing and telling D.L the other thing. But like he said, if she felt that way, she could have spoke to him and it would have been resolved back then without this even, you know, causing the drama and the hysteria that it created.
Yeah, I listened to that live with you. I didn't hear any of that before. And like I said, not the biggest D.L fan, right? But to strip that away, take all that aside, and just to listen to the facts, I kind of agree with the brother. Like, it is, as much as I feel like Monique has been disrespected in this game, and as much as I've been vocal about that, and I feel like she's definitely deserving, it threw me off a little bit to see all of this anger going on stage, and then it escalate to where it is now, knowing that it could have been a situation where it was a promoter's responsibility and not the actual responsibility of the two in play. Now, what do you think of the headliner situation? Because that seemed like a big issue. Who was headlining? Are there differences in money when it comes to headliners? Is it different in popularity, cachet? Why is it so important for a comic to have that headliner status? Because we've seen this before. We've seen it with even Godfrey and T.I. When Godfrey was supposed to be the headliner, he went on and did his thing. The promoter said, hey, yo, can T.I. come on? T.I. did the extra 30 minutes. Godfrey didn't like that. It was all based around this headliner title. What's your thoughts on that, and how important is that headliner title to comedians?
It varies, to be honest with you, because you could be a headliner at your show, but you might not be a headliner on a bigger stage. So a headliner that's carrying the show, you might be the headliner for that night, and then you could be the co-headliner or co-feature. So usually that's already, you know, worked out months out before the show when it's being promoted. So from what I saw, and they showed various things when they did the radio promotion, they said D.L was the headliner. When they did the video promotion, they showed D.L as the headliner. So whenever you're getting a bigger picture, or your name is being spoke about as the headliner leading up to the show, you could tell how that is being displayed. When your picture is the biggest picture on the flyers, your picture is the biggest picture on the marquee, then that's letting everybody know you're headlining that show, what leading up to it. So it's not like you get to a show and you figure out you're the headliner. It don't matter what the contract said. His contract said headliner, her contract said headliner. I could get a contract that said headliner, but it could be 3 other headliners on there. Are you the headliner of the headliners? Right. It's like when they did the King of Comedies, each one of those were headliners.
Right.
D.L, Sid, Bernie, and Steve. But who's the headliner of the headliners? So I think that's what the situation was with Monique. She felt like she was the headliner out of maybe 2 or 3 headliners that were there, but the promoter paid D.L as a headliner. The promoter promoted the show with D.L as a headliner. So it's hard for me to see a comedian being confused when you see the promotions that's going out months in advance for a show before you get there. It's not like you get there and you figure it out like, am I headlining or you headlining? You pretty much know already.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you this about the actual paperwork itself. Did you see the paperwork, the contract, and the memo and all that? What's the difference between all that if you did see it?
I mean, it's like semantics, it's terminology. You know, you can play with words. Like I said, your contract can say you're a headliner. I've had contracts that said I'm a headliner, but I went on with other headliners. Right. So it's a title. That don't necessarily mean you're headlining tonight. Your title says he's headlined shows before. So it's semantics. It's saying, okay, yes, Monique is a headliner, but are you headlining tonight?
Okay, so what you're saying is, okay, we understand that this comic or this personality is a headlining personality, but that does not mean because you are a headlining personality that you're particularly headlining this show.
Absolutely.
Understood.
And we know and we understand that from the time that the show was being promoted. So if it was any confusion, you had enough time to see that this individual name is going on last, or this individual name is going on first. When you're doing a flyer and that person is the biggest face on the flyer, has the biggest picture on the marquee, and his name is being, you know, promoted, saying he's the headliner of the show, that's the time to address it, not the show.
Yeah, you know, this whole thing, and I want to ask you this too, and I appreciate your perspective because this is real dope to hear from an actual comic who sees these various contracts and see these things. I'm really enjoying this. Pierre said, yeah, I'm reading comments as well, but we see these two comics, legends in the game, very headstrong comedians, very stuck in their way comedians who continue to go out here and tour and do their thing, and deservingly so, right? But when we think about comedy, and I know let's say like within the last 20 years, we have our names, right? Our typical names that we throw out there, who the best or who the headliners and things like that. And these names kind of regurgitate throughout time. And I was talking actually in a room with Bob Sumner in there, and it kind of gave me the impression that it's time for something new. It's time for something fresh. It's time for them young, hungry comedians that aren't necessarily at the status of a DL or a Monique to kind of get a little more recognition, because it looks like these comics now, they've gotten to a certain pedestal, and now ego is running the show as opposed to that hunger and that laughter that we usually just enjoy and what we grew up loving them on. Do you think that, in your opinion, it's time for a little bit of the old to kind of start flowing out and some of the new to kind of start being promoted? And do you think some of the new comics get promoted the way some of your older comics used to or do now?
Absolutely not. It's no such thing as a given in this business. You have to earn what you get, and you have to take that spot. Nobody's giving up their spot. DL earned his spot. Monique earned her spot. So they should be able to leave out on their own terms. I mean, when you get to that point of going through all the rigors and all the trials and tribulations they had to go through to get to where they are, they deserve to be treated like legends, as they are, just like the Rolling Stones, just like the Beatles, just like if you put out a concert for the Pink Floyd, it's going to sell out. Just for the mere fact, if you put out a concert for U2, nobody's telling them they need to get out of the way for Coldplay or somebody young. It just don't happen like that.
Right.
I think all of our legends should get the accolades that they deserve, and they have a right to have a certain amount of ego. And everybody has to have a certain amount of ego to get to where you are. You have to have a certain amount of narcissism and selfishness to say, "I'm great, I'm that," and it's something that's necessary to become the person you are. It's only when it becomes excessive that it's a problem. Only when it becomes obnoxious. However, if it's contained and under control, you have every right to claim your stake and continue to earn money as a legend in the game. Me being a younger artist, it's up to me to blaze my own trail and put in my own work and be recognized by those who said, okay, you're noticeable now, or you're worthy of the big stage. Nobody is here in the entertainment business, comedy, music, or anything else to give you anything or say it's going to be up to somebody else to put you on a platform. Your audience will let you know, and you know, by your work will speak for itself.
Appreciate that comment. Appreciate that perspective. My last question to you, brother, and I've definitely enjoyed this time, man. If you watching the video. If you're liking what you're hearing, like, subscribe, and share it to the platform Viral Hip Hop News. You already know. And go tap in with my brother Mike Ross, man. Mike on the mic, incredible comedian out of New Jersey. Go tap in with my bro right now. Now, we started the conversation. I asked you, what was your initial thought on everything that you saw? And you said you were hurt as watching some of your contemporaries, two legends in the game, do this shit back and forth. It hurt to see as a fellow comedian. What do you think the overall ramifications will be for both comics? Do you think that they'll be hurt? In particular, Mo'Nique, right? Because Mo'Nique obviously dealt with her issue of feeling like she was blackballed. You heard the names Oprah, Lee Daniels, Charlamagne, Tyler Perry, all people that she felt as though Netflix were holding her career back. And then she finally began to start coming into the spotlight a lot more. 50 was bringing her into some of his series. You start seeing opportunities begin to open up. Lee Daniels kind of fell back on his issue with Mo'Nique for whatever the case may be. You're hearing different reasonings as to why he did that, but he did, right? So how do you see this affecting both comics, in particular Mo'Nique, after what we've seen?
One thing about life and when we have drama, just like the Will Smith and any other thing, time passes by and we forget about it. It heals all wounds. So I'm sure we'll move past this next month. Somebody else is going to do something even crazier and we'll be talking about that. So you know what I mean? It just happens. and we deal with it accordingly and you move on. As far as Mo'Nique, I think she's still going to be able to land on her feet. I'm sure she'll still be successful. However, one thing I learned in this business, everybody talks, everybody knows everybody. And you don't want to step on the wrong toes where there's an opportunity for you. And if you're stepping on the wrong toes, they have the authority and the power and the financial resources to say, I don't want the drama that comes with it. If you're known for always being the person, no matter how great of a comedian you are, you can have legendary status, you can have the cachet. But if you have that drama that they're worried about or they're concerned to say, hey, this person might bring this baggage along with them, they can easily blackball you, cash you out, and leave you in the cold. So I'm praying her name doesn't get attached to that. And I think she has enough, enough history and enough of a resume that once this, dies down, she'll be able to recover. And this too shall pass.
Appreciate that, man. We got Mike on the mic on Viral Hip Hop News Live on this beautiful Wednesday morning. We're doing it a little impromptu. I appreciate everybody that's in the building right now. Drop them area codes. Let me know where you're listening from, man. We got 226 people in the building, and we definitely want to show y'all some love, man, and get some engagement going on. I see somebody ask, where can we get Mike's socials, man? So as you tell them your social media handles, I'm going to write it in the chat. Let them know where they can find you again, brother.
At Mike Ross Comedy, Mike on the mic, YouTube, and Michael Ross on Facebook.
You heard that. At Mike Ross Comedy, Mike on the mic. And what else did you say? Shit, I'm sorry.
Michael Ross on Facebook and Mike on the mic, YouTube.
You already know, man. So listen, before we get up out of here, man, we got 220 people in the building. When's your next show? How's comic stripping going on? Did you have to beat anybody down for having a wife trying to jump up and grab your drawers, man? How's life over there with you, man?
Hey, life is going great, man. I'm looking forward to my next show coming up June 26th at the Stress Factory in New Brunswick. Come out, buy tickets online, support, and definitely going to do that strip tease at the end of the show. The women are looking forward to it. I've been working hard with the Liquor Run movie, and I'm still looking forward to doing that connection with you and Graham Whitaker to connect, about the movie and seeing how everything is going to move forward with that. So we've been just working hard with Jay, the director, and putting in that work, for the working on the script for the new movie coming out in August.
Dope, man. Keep doing your thing, man. Keep being powerful. I definitely appreciate your thoughts, appreciate your perspective, appreciate your friendship, doing your goddamn thing out here in the comic world, doing your thing, servicing the people as a fireman, man. Just keep doing what you're doing, bro. I'm so proud of you. I'm glad to call you my friend, man, and keep doing your goddamn thing, man. If you have anything else before we get up out of here, the floor is yours.
Hey, always a pleasure. Take care. Stay blessed, brother.
You already know, Mike. Sam Ant, Viral Hip Hop News. We got Mike Ross, comedian out of New Jersey. Viral Hip Hop News Live. Tap in with my bro. Like, comment, share to this video. If you didn't see this video, Go back, man. We had a great conversation talking about the Mo'Nique and D.L situation. D.L tapped in and gave his perspective on how he felt about the entire situation. If you didn't see that, go back and check that out now and follow my brother on all the social media handles. But until then, man, we up out of here. 843. I see you in the building. Rock Hill, South Carolina. Raleigh, North Carolina, 919. Stand up. Appreciate each and every one of y'all. Hey, man, we out of here. Till next time, brother. I'll holler at you. Peace.